Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Martin Talkz, in which I'm going to continue the holiday movie series with a much better classic, and this is a classic from 1946. If you know what this movie is, it's none other than that great classic, It's a Wonderful Life, which is directed by the late Frank Capra, and it stars the late Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed, as well as a few other cast members. Now, this is the 60th Anniversary Edition DVD, which was from 2006, I believe. Unfortunately, this DVD is sealed because Mom has not opened it yet, but she'll open it soon. Anyways, we have the spine and the back, and it says, "It's one of those ageless movies that improves with age," as stated by Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times, which he gave this film 4 stars. An unforgettable special features of the making of It's a Wonderful Life is hosted by the late Tom Bosley. As we know, Tom Bosley sadly passed away 2 months ago, back in October. And also, a personal remembrance, which is a special tribute to Frank Capra, narrated by his son Frank Capra Jr., and of course the original theatrical trailer, which we know Frank Capra passed away in 1991. But anyways, I'm going to explain in this film. I have seen most parts of it, but as you know, Jimmy Stewart plays a man named George Bailey, and this film is set in a fictitious New York town, in this town called Bedford Falls, New York. And George Bailey's life is probably not good, and particularly with one other person, being the villain, Mr. Potter. I can't remember who plays Mr. Potter, but then things start to change one night when a guardian angel named Clarence comes and sees him, and for this, Clarence decides to take George into a big alternate universe, which explains what Bedford Falls, New York would have been like had George Bailey never been born. Because had George never been born, in this reality, it almost feels as if his friends had hated George instead of liked him in that, and all this, and particularly with Mr. Power being in complete power and all this, and I know it's probably bad, but of course, he has a lot of these tough times and all this, but then, of course, after this reality is over, then things get back to normal and all this. And I know with some of his friends, including Ernie and Bert and all this, and a few others, but then after that, Clarence then we have the memorable ending scene, which when George heads back to his house, of course, along the way back, he passes by Mr. Potter's office, and Miss Jimmy Stewart says, "Merry Christmas, Mr. Potter!" And Mr. Potter replies back saying, "And a very Merry Christmas to you! In jail!" Of course, after that, he returns home, and there he finds his relatives, which one of the relatives' names is Zuzu, I can't remember, that's the daughter, but with all of them together, then George's friends come by, and they always give her the good news about it, and with that, they start to sing a Christmas carol, which they sing, "Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled." And it probably stops around that point or so, a little bit. Can't remember where it actually stops, but still. But then after that, there's a little bit more good news and all this, and with the more good news, and with George finally liking it, it leads to the other big song, which they finally start to sing. "Should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should all acquaintance be forgot and days of auld lang syne?" Yup. Still pretty good. Good to sing that song. And it also one of the children then later says to him, and it says, Mommy, every teacher says that every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings," which is probably memorable and all this, and Clarence, I think he does get his wings of all this, but I don't know, but Clarence is thankful for taking George through that alternate reality, because Clarence actually does trust in George a lot, but anyways, this film is still a great movie. It was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, but it ended up walking away empty-handed that year, because 4 of the 5 categories it was nominated in, the awards ended up going to the Best Years of Our Lives, in which this film was even nominated for Best Picture, and Frank Capra was nominated for Best Director, and I'm sure Jimmy Stewart was nominated for Best Actor, but neither of those 3 won. And one other category that lost to went to another film, film. I can't remember what that one was, but that's okay. But even though this film did not win any Oscars, it still got honored in a bunch of AFI specials. In the Heroes and Villains special, we know Mr. Potter made it to the Villains list, and in a Heroes list, and this George Bailey made it too. Made the cut on there. And this film was also the only holiday movie to ever reach #1 in one AFI special, which that special that it was #1 at was the AFI's 100 Years, 100 Cheers, which aired in June of 2006. They put that film at #1 as an inspirational movie because the Film Institute was so impressed about what life would be like for the place had you never been born. It almost feels as if an alternate reality has really occurred, but still, this film's a classic, and I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Although it is good, there's some scenes in the film, I don't know if I haven't seen all the parts, but I've seen most of it, but still, it's a great holiday classic, and if you love Jimmy Stewart, you should go ahead and get this, and particularly also if you love Frank Capra's other films as well. So if you love Frank Capra, you'll love this. And as I said, Jimmy Stewart, probably George Bailey. I think George Bailey's the best role that Jimmy Stewart has ever played. But still, It's a Wonderful Life. You can't go wrong. So, there you go. Well, that wraps up for my review of It's a Wonderful Life. And that concludes episode 13 of Martin Talkz. And for the next episode of Martin Talkz, which the next holiday movie I'll review will be the 2000 classic film How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which I know you'll all enjoy that, but in the meantime, I'll see you all again soon for my next video, and until then, have a good night, everybody!